There's 3 generations in the Army right now. There's a pre-9/11 generation. There's the 9/11 generation who saw 20 years of global war on terror and combat operations across the world. And now you have a post-9/11 generation of folks.
Which one are we on now? I mean, the name, I think it's...
I don't even know.
X, that's we're beyond. Are we still an X? I don't
know. Yeah, Generation X, maybe. Is it X? Yeah, I'm not sure.
I think so.
But many of these folks weren't even alive on 9/11.
Oh, no.
And so to them, that's Pearl Harbor to us, something that happened in the past, and they see the pictures. The global war on terror generation is retiring. I came in 2003. I've gone to retirement ceremonies now. So we've got guys who are getting out. They hit their 20 years. They're going to hit their 25 years. And that pyramid is tight, as you know. Yeah. It gets tighter and tighter each year that you kind of get past that 20 to 22, 25 year mark. And they're getting out. And so what does that mean at the most foundational level? There's less and less combat patches on those shoulders at the company level. In now kind of almost soon probably into the battalion level. And we're seeing, I've met majors who never went to combat.
Yeah.
And that experience at the top now is counterinsurgency. It's counterterrorism. It's, lower intensity conflict, is sometimes in the soft units. And the consensus is that we're going to have this LISCO fight, this peer-to-peer fight that we've been talking about, near-peer actors.
Well, that's the biggest threat.
The biggest threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are a lot of folks who are out there talking about the next terrorist attack on America and what does that look like, and there's various people on the scale from the conspiracy theory to actual real threat out there that we could talk about at length. But what is the effect of the loss of that experience have on the development of the next generation of soldier?
Yeah, I came in the Army where there were, the very senior leaders who were Vietnam vets, battalion, brigade commanders, corps commanders, and then there would maybe, I remember there was one platoon sergeant was a Vietnam veteran when I came in the Army because he had gotten out and come back in. And that's the way they felt. Like, oh, you guys, and then you know nothing about war. And we did all right. We did all right. And there's something to be said about combat experience. I'm not going to deny that. You and I both lived it, right? I was a Desert Storm and 5 tours at Iraq. And there's something to be said about that. So there's an aspect of knowledge and experience that you can't replicate until you get there, until you do it. But that doesn't mean you can't train and develop leaders to prepare, because you and I started off with the fact that we were in a unit. 99% of that unit did not have combat patches, but you said we were ready and we felt it. Remember, and I opened with the fact that when the individual soldier feels like they're ready, that is when you achieve readiness, when they feel like they're ready, right? Leaders can say their units are ready. I've heard lots of leaders go, my unit's a T. I look over and go, wow, But I honestly feel that every one of the soldiers in our formation in 1 infantry felt like they were ready. And none of them had combat experience. And they performed, I wouldn't say flawlessly. I mean, we all make mistakes, yes. But gosh darn, I was proud. I could cry right now just thinking about it. When you watched them and you were just like, man, how did we do that? We're going to lose combat experience. There's nothing we can do about that. 100% of the people who are in the Army today are going to get out someday, right? 100%, right? Unless they cryo-freeze us right now, and then draft us later on. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen. And it is important, and it's experience. What we have to do before they leave, and this section is about leader development, is we have to gain the knowledge and experience that they have, and we have to transition that the best we can to the next generation of warfighters. And that's what our Vietnam vets did. I'll give you a funny story. We went to Desert Storm. My platoon sergeant was in the latter part of Vietnam. Older guy, got out, came back in. And I was the RTO. Prick 77 with the long whip antenna out in the desert, right? And you know what he kept telling me? Get away from me. Go over there with the lieutenant. You know why? because they were targeted during Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I remember it all the time. And that's a little thing. I never forgot that for my entire life. That makes sure that I am concealed the best I can be in combat, because that's a little thing. And he gave us a lot more skills than that. He did, but he transferred those skills, and I remembered them. Right. The funny thing was, he said, "Go there by lieutenant." You pick up on that? Oh yeah. But so I think from a leader development standpoint is they're going to go. They deserve to retire. They deserve all the benefits they earned. It is knowledge and skill that's irreplaceable, but it doesn't mean it's not transferable. I honestly believe it's transferable. Not 100%. You have to, experience is experience. But if we don't capitalize on that, and by the way, we're all not dead. We can still come back and help train. I do that every week here at the Association of the United States Army. Go out there and share the experiences I have. And that's what our combat veterans need to do, is figure out a way to stay involved with the service. Not necessarily always capitalize on them, right? I mean, the Army needs some help with resourcing. But transfer the skills, do the best you can to predict where we're going to fight next, and ready your soldiers every day for that fight.
What does our next generation of soldier look like?
Better than us. I mean that. Are they different? Absolutely. Absolutely. They are much different. Not completely. Like I said, they're fit. Do they come to us fit as previously? Many of them do, many of them don't. But we've always, made them the soldiers they are. That's our job. If we got delivered perfect product from America, we just get rid of basic training. I mean, it's there's an aspect of that that's going to have to continue. But I got to give you a history lesson. Not a lesson. I don't want to profess to you that. That's not how
I like history.
Yeah. In the 30s and 40s, there was a nationwide phenomenon that the youth of the nation was going to destroy this great country. Now, this is true. Now, think about this generation. This is not the industrial generation. This is the generation that expanded to the West. They clawed the soil, broke the ground, and built us an agricultural mecca, right? And they expanded and set the foundations very well, for the next generation. But the nationwide perception was that generation was going to destroy America. Why? The Roaring 20s. Jazz music, smoking, the youth of America was partying. And then we go into the Great Depression, which, the adults at the time have to blame the youth as a result of the Great Depression, right? What did that generation become?
The greatest generation.
The greatest generation. So for everybody out there that thinks the next generation is not better than you or you are better than them, just look back. The one thing we've done since the inception of this great nation is blame the next generation for not being as good as us. Now, one more history lesson on them. There's a term I'm about to say that was developed during that time period that is commonly used today that has a different meaning than it did then. The generation, the adults of the 20s and 30s, had a name for that generation or the people within it. They called them teenagers. Go back in history. Now, there's some debate about where this was first used, but it was first used, some say early as the 1900s, but most predominantly it was used in the 20s and 30s, right? There's debate about when it was first used. The word teenager was the negative connotation put on the youth of that day by the adults of the time. And they became the greatest generation. So does this generation have flaws? Of course it does. Every generation that's been in this country, because we're a melting pot of people from all around the world, right? And we still are today, and we're seeing that, right? But don't doubt that they don't have capabilities that we don't. No. Is their attention span as great as ours? Absolutely not. There's science that proves this. But their absorption rate. So let's just say, for example, I'll just throw a number out. Let's just say their attention span is half ours. Parents out there will probably agree with me. It's probably more than that. It's probably a third of our attention span, right?
I would argue. I would agree with that, yes.
You know what their absorption rate is? Probably 5 times of what we were. The amount of information they can consume in a single hour is so much more elevated than what we could. Imagine when you went to school. I did that book report. They can flip through more information on their cell phone in a minute than I could spending the whole afternoon at the library, right? And it's accurate, up to date, and relevancy is gauged on, I guess, who's viewing it. So that's my long answer to, we're going to be just fine. And they're better than us in different ways, but they're not bad. And don't blame the next generation, because you'll fall victim to the people who called them teenagers in the 1920s and 30s. And you'll be wrong. And I can't predict the future, but I hope I'm right? I hope I'm right. That's what we have to believe.